We call them the E-Force of the Florida Keys. They're the officers of the Fish and Wildlife Commission, sworn to protect the environment and the people of Florida's most southern waters. On this episode of E-Force, Hurricane Dennis hits the Florida Keys, and the members of the E-Force are ready for action.
Those waves are going to crash over the island like a reef.
From protecting the waters,
oh man, this could be really, really bad,
to protecting citizens lost and in danger.
Not safe to be out in this hurricane.
The E-Force is there when the hurricane hits town. All this and more on a special episode of E-Force.
News at the top of the hour. Here's a weather emergency update.
you can hear the wind starting to pick up.
Dennis the Menace gaining strength off Cuba.
It started out south of Cuba and Jamaica and been through Haiti already.
Gusts of 50 miles per hour blowing over Key West.
If that storm continued with the strength that it has now, it would probably be mass destruction.
Florida Keys bracing for Hurricane Dennis.
Hurricane Dennis is about to slam into the Florida Keys, and the officers of the Fish and Wildlife Commission are on high alert.
You might have what they call a storm surge. So if you look over to this canal right now, imagine that 10 to 15 to 20 feet higher than it is. On top of that, if you've got 150 mile an hour winds, you might have, 15-foot waves on top of that. When you're a small string of islands, some of our islands are no more than a quarter mile across. You can imagine those waves are going to crash over the islands like a reef. It can be very, very devastating.
The marinas prepare for the worst.
Any boat that comes loose is going to destroy all the other boats, destroy the pilings. In extreme cases of flooding and storm surge, could even come on land and run into structures.
The mayor of Key West has ordered all tourists to evacuate the Key West area due to the oncoming hurricane.
They're closing the state parks. They're asking people to leave town. Florida Keys is about 125 miles long. One road goes in and one road goes out.
God forbid there be an accident on one of the bridges of the highway, it would cause a major mass congestion of traffic.
But while the evacuation runs smoothly enough, Chris the Hammer Maxson says not everyone plans on leaving.
Some of the people that have been there for their whole lives, they just stay and ride the storm out.
I don't have an extended family, so more people need me than I need them, that's for sure. Evacuation for me is last resort.
For the most part, Keys residents, pretty hardy people. They don't really like to leave when it's been that way. I've been here for 10 years, and I know very few people that have ever left for a hurricane.
Even if you're in a house, you're not 100% safe. The trees can fall on the house. The wind can rip the roof off of your house. These people that stay are pretty much taking things into their own hands by staying. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're just stubborn.
Still, for those folks that do stay, the E-Force is standing by.
We're out there ready to aid the public.
Now, all that's left to do is hunker down and wait for the hurricane to hit.
See that the wind is really starting to kick. The trees are moving. The canvas on that boat's moving. They've pulled all the flags down. Most of the time they have either a dive flag or an American flag raised up. It's all gone. You can only see 4 boats, and normally you have to fight for a slip in this marina. So you can see it's really People are taking it seriously out here on this storm. And it's going to get real nasty as far as the weather goes in a quick way.
Coming up on this special episode of E-Force.
It's just like, man, ridiculous.
Hurricane Dennis slams the islands, and some folks act like they've gone into shock.
He's out here driving around in a hurricane.
But not everyone suffers when the hurricane hits the Keys.
There's always going to be people trying to live on that edge.
We wait for opportunities like this.
All coming up as this special E-Force continues.
Feel the wind pulling the truck.
Hurricane Dennis has hit the Florida Keys, and Officer Chris the Hammer Matson is out in the thick of it.
There's really nobody on the roads, and everybody's paying attention to the warnings that have been issued to get off the road and to get to shelter or to higher ground. I drove over Tavernier Creek Bridge and my patrol truck about pulled off the road. It was so windy. It's just like, man, ridiculous. The way the wind's blowing. You can see the waves hanging on this wall here. You can see how gray the water looks from being so stirred up. I mean, this water's only about 6 feet deep at the most. You can just see the way the waves are just breaking in here. Just the strength of the wind. Man, I would not want to be on a boat tonight. We're out here making sure everybody's off the road. This guy pulls up, a tourist, and he's looking for a rental property.
There's only the 700 address.
I think it's just right here, right up here.
That guy was lost, and he's out here driving around in a hurricane. It's not safe to be out in this hurricane.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just hope he makes it where he needs to be.
Hey, you can see those trees. Look at that palm tree flexing. The reason they pull everybody off the road is because of the fact that there is this debris laying around. I mean, we're 100 feet from the highway, which is the main source of travel. The wind gets up underneath that, and it can create a missile and throw it anywhere. As the storm builds and builds and continues to gain strength and get closer to us, you're going to see more and more of this type of thing, with roofs off of different buildings, awnings down, and it just poses a hazard. That's why it's so important for everybody to get off the roadways. My truck's kind of going all over the road, so that's why they've given the order to get everybody off the road.
We had high winds throughout the night, power outages on and off, power went in and out the whole evening. You can hear the shutters rattling on the windows.
The winds from Hurricane Dennis may still be blowing, but Officer Liz Reese runs into some dudes who couldn't be happier.
Surf's up, huh?
We are observing our boats out there catching a wave. Something you can't do around here, only in this kind of weather.
But there's always going to be people trying to live on that edge. And it's one of those things where, no law says you can't be out there right now.
Hey, awesome. What's up?
Are you looking for a spot for a ride?
No, been here my whole life.
Have you? Great.
Yeah.
Great.
We wait for opportunities like this.
You can see the waves are all kicked up here. This water's normally flat.
We pray for waves like this to come down to the Florida Straits here. Very unusual. You get a storm that comes in between Cuba and Florida.
There's no fun in sitting in your house for 12 to 16 hours worrying about if you're going to be in the house tomorrow. Everybody's trying to let off a little steam since the worst is past us.
So besides this pelting rain and wind, everything else is good. Just another boring day in paradise here. And I'll be careful.
This is one of our more prestigious resorts here in Islamorada. It looks like they had a couple trees go down.
Big gumbo limbo at the end there actually broke off right at the ground.
Did any of the rest of the resort take any other damage? How's the dock out front?
Yeah, the dock is good. The seawall survived. We got a lot of seaweed that made it up onto the beach. I got probably about 20 feet of seaweed sitting on the beach right now. So it'll still be, the whole cleanup on the property will probably still take maybe 3-4 days before we'll be back.
By then that seagrass
about 85% anyway.
By then that seagrass will be nice and ripe.
Right, exactly. Could have been worse though. The island's still here, the lodge is still here, minus a few trees, but we'll be all right. Could have been a lot worse.
Coming up on this special E-Force.
She's trying to get back on her feet.
The Keys recover from the storm, and the E-Force is there to help protect the land and the sea.
We can actually file criminal charges against that person.
The aftermath of Hurricane Dennis coming up next. The worst of Hurricane Dennis has blown through the Florida Keys.
The eye of the storm actually passed like 90 miles west of Key West. Key West is kind of underwater now, so had it gotten any closer, it would have been really, really devastating to the island of Key West.
Now the islands begin to dig out.
You get a little cabin fever when you're sitting in your house listening to coconuts bounce off the walls. Everybody kind of wants to get out and see what happened, see if their boat's okay.
Officer Jimmy Johnson is on patrol. He wants to survey the damage in the lower Keys.
We're here to help out the public and see exactly how bad the storm was. This was totally in the water. It cleared the seaweed. Even with this retaining wall that was put in place a couple of years ago from some of the other storms that we had, you can still see that the water was able to go up and over that retaining wall and still bring sand and weeds and debris up onto the highway. Everybody from south of the 7 Mile Bridge down to the Key West area is without power at this time. That's 30,000 people if they all stayed.
At the Sugarloaf Marina, Jimmy discovers his first casualties of the hurricane.
We lost our power cable here. It broke off by this one big tree that broke down. Of
course, we lost all of our shrimp and all of our bait in the tank, because when the power goes off, we lose all that. Yeah, these are our bait tanks here. All of our shrimp are dead. I pumped all the water out of here. Now I'll be cleaning these all out. We've lost a lot of bait. I'm throwing them out. Of course, you can see how it smells in here. Keep all of our crabs in here. So we lost probably 200 crabs, and we get $1.75 a piece for them. And then your shrimp also, you lose them. They're $2 a dozen, and we lost 2,000 shrimp. So you lose some money off this. When the power goes out, you lose all your bait. Definitely hurts business, but at least you're alive, you know, that's the one thing that counts.
While almost all the FWC officers are inspecting damage on the land, Chris the Hammer Matson is the first one back on the water.
That boat is a hurricane casualty. What they call a derelict vessel, where somebody just abandons a boat and it just sits out here, and eventually the weather and the environment take its toll and it sinks. It was floating at one time. Now it's no longer floating. It does pose an environmental threat, because if there's any fuel, any leaking fuel on there, or any kind of things that can rust out or deteriorate in the ocean, that does pose a threat.
That derelict vessel is a threat to the environment, but Chris finds a destroyed water marker that can do some serious damage to boaters right now.
Steel I-beam marker, there's jagged metal sticking up. The marker's toppled over, result of the storm. You might hit it because it is partially submerged. You can see the steel broke. The steel part of the marker just snapped.
This is what the marker should look like, but now it's half underwater.
That jagged steel could put a nice crack in their boat and damage the hull and possibly even hurt somebody really bad.
In the skies above the Florida Keys, E-Force copter pilot Joe Martina looks to see where help is needed most.
We just boom right in over the top of the roads that are flooded or fly over the water. We don't care. And we can go in and see the areas that are damaged. We can tell the officers, look at this is where the greatest damage is. Power's out, they need water, they need food, but no major injuries.
Meanwhile, Jimmy Johnson finds a huge boat hazard caused by the storm. A barge has broken loose.
Oh man, this could be really, really bad. Apparently it broke loose during Hurricane Dennis, and it is now resting against this little area of land here. And it looks like it's floating. I don't believe it's on the bottom. That breaks loose and floats in there. You have that large yacht there, and this just becomes a floating structure that's going to bump into something and cause some serious damage to, especially a yacht that's you know, worth quite a lot of money. It's just going to probably take at least a tugboat to get it out of there, and hopefully that navigational hazard will be out of there within a day.
But it's not just commercial fishing folks that are suffering from the hurricane. Officer Johnson finds one woman who's been hit where she lives.
Out in this basin, as you can see, it's a big liveaboard area where people go ahead and secure their vessels, and they live on the boats, and they transverse to and from to work and what have you by small little dinghies.
Dennis damaged this woman's houseboat.
This is their homes, just like we all have homes.
Now it broke loose.
I guess it broke loose during the southeast winds and blew it along the campground here?
Yeah, at night, but it was too rainy to do anything.
Right. What kind of salvage operations do you have in place right now?
Well, we've got some friends that have some resin, and we're going to make a patch, you know.
She's trying to get back on her feet. I've offered any assistance that we might be able to help her with. All right, is there anything we can do for you, ma'am?
Not bother me while I'm here.
She says right now she's in good shape. She's just trying to survey what she needs to do to go ahead and get this vessel floating again, get it back on its mooring so she too can go ahead and resume her lifestyle after Hurricane Dennis.
And now that the winds have stopped blowing, that seems to be the attitude of everyone in the Florida Keys.
And we're going to go back to business as usual until the next one comes along.
Next on this special E-Force, the Florida Keys deal with disaster.
Kind of peeled the whole thing open like a banana.
There's more of our special E-Force after this. Hurricane Dennis is dying down, and Officer Liz Reese takes a look around.
I want people to know that law enforcement is out and present and that we're a vital part of their community. There's a roof here that came off this old conch house. You can see it all hanging off the edge. It must have just caught a pocket of air and just kind of peeled the whole thing open like a banana. There's a palm tree that's down right here. Snapped right off there at the base and fell right into the utility cart. It's like a two-pointer. Palm trees are pretty unique trees. When you look at the tree and there's no wind blowing, it's up and real like this. And as the strong winds, hurricane force winds or greater come, the whole thing kind of folds over like this. The design of the frond is to give and go with the wind so that it doesn't snap off and break off onto the ground. These palm trees look like they've survived so far. The tiki hut looks like it's seen better days. We've got some flooding. You can see the bars open for business. People are just looking to get out and get with their friends and I guess do the best they can to enjoy a day off. The Keys will be back to normal in a few days. People that evacuated will start coming back. Keys are still there, and the economy wants your business. Please come back and see us.
For more information on the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, log on to myfwc.com.